You know, it's like, we don't need to know that.
Fucking psychoanalysis, man.
You're stuck in the oral phase. That's why you're
stuck in the oral phase. Is that why I'm vaping right now?
That is exactly why.
Orally fucking fixated.
And once we get you
Me
out
too,
of
Heather.
I have fucking daddy issues too.
Welcome to our podcast. You're listening to All Night by Ixon at www.ixonmusic.com.
At first, I didn't know what the hell you said, but then it made sense. Okay.
Ready, set, go.
Blah,
I'm telling you, it's that oral. Welcome to
oral. What oral,
that
Jody?
oral
what?
fixation. You're stuck at the oral stage.
Forever and always.
Welcome to Welcome to Why Complain When You Can Whine, making sense of the senseless. Three professional women attempting to make sense of toxic nonsense while drinking wine. Although tonight, I do not have wine. I am Dr. Jody Larman, licensed clinical psychologist in the state of California. Therefore, everything that we discuss today or on any podcast is purely for psychoeducational or entertainment purposes only. And no, I am not drinking. I have water in this. Unfortunately, it's just water. I swear to you, by the end of this, you will wonder, as I do, but it is not alcoholic.
Jody's high on life.
My woman?
I said Jody's high on life right now.
High on life.
And placebos.
Heather.
I'm Heather, licensed counselor and domestic violence survivor, and tonight I'm drinking this is really good, you guys. It's like a white peach margarita.
Oh,
Cuervo.
Or does that say Cuervo? Yeah.
Cuervo. And it's light, apparently. I don't know what the calorie count is. It's not telling me, but
As long as it's not light on alcohol.
No, light on calories, but not on the tequila. So it's actually delicious. Under 95 calories per serving.
So that means 94
writing, y'all. I can't fucking read that shit. How old am I? It's definitely under 95 calories. I can't fucking read that.
So bad. I couldn't either.
It's low cal. It's delicious alcoholic beverage.
Love it. What glass are you drinking out of?
I keep using my Hades glass.
I love that glass.
Because it's named after my cat, and he just gets it's just a good glass to pour stuff and fuck, man.
Just a glass and I just pour
to pour stuff in.
This is great. This is a good time.
Yes. Okay.
I hope everyone's drunk by the time they watch this. All right. Hello, everyone. I'm Ashley Paige, yada, yada, yada. You know me. Domestic violence survivor, single mom. My brain froze. Tonight, I'm just going to try and get through this as quickly as possible. Heather, I thought of you when I picked this bottle out because this was the last wine you and I drank together. White sangria.
Oh, yay.
From St. Catherine Cellars. It's not as good as it was when we drank it in slushy form. And tonight I got a glass that matched my earrings. And
adorbs.
Hello. Thank you.
Cheers, ladies.
Cheers.
I love you, bitches. It was what's that dumb fuck's name? Rashid Grape. The great man.
Oh, that fucking guy. Yeah. Tore down.
So it was Rashid. Oh my God, you didn't see that? Okay, so he comes on and says, to all the women who turn down nice guys.
Like me, he says.
Like
nice
me.
guys like
Holds
me.
up a grape and he goes, you deserve to be graped. Records it. So
Yeah.
And TikTok allows that. I mean, even if he says grape, everybody knows what he's talking about, and that's okay to be on TikTok, even though it's
you're gonna shit your pants when I tell you what else was on TikTok this week. Shit your pants. So long story short, all of TikTok freaks the fuck out. Everyone starts reporting. He gets his account. Did he get his account banned, Heather?
I think so.
Someone finds his mama,
Mm-hmm.
attacks his mom. She publicly disowns him on TikTok.
Oh, she's on TikTok.
Calls the cops. Calls his work, I believe, Heather. Was that it?
Mm-hmm.
Several people came on and did then this dude named King Lion came on and stitched the video, and he was like, just so you know, don't let this man be the example for all men. Completely.
Oh, is that the one video that you had? That I did see, but I didn't see the original one. Okay.
Yeah, so then he pissed all the women off because it's like, you completely invalidate us when you do this shit. You completely invalidate us. So then this white man came on and he said the example of treat every man like a loaded gun, which I reposted. And then a white woman came on and she said essentially the same thing, but she talked about how when she was a teacher, all of her female students, all the female students, and then King Lion came back and then created another stitch, completely deflecting away, saying about teachers being like, basically taking advantage of their students.
It was a total Darvo what he did.
Darvo.
Whoa, you are not even talking about the same thing anymore.
No, and
your point.
He talks about how he talks about how he stands with women, but all of his following, which are very abusive men, went over and attacked all these women who spoke out against King Lion. It was drama. And then I don't know if you saw Man Side or something, Man something, literally made a video about how to SA babies. That was the title of it, How to SA Babies.
The fuck?
The fuck is correct. And then he made a video talking about if he was a woman, all the rappers he'd like to fuck. And then goes from
I did not see this shit.
I'll send it to you. Goes from one rapper, and he's like, I would, and then basically talks about how he would essay him. Like, if he got away from me, I'd blah, 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 blah. And then he goes to DaBaby, and he was like, I totally fucked DaBaby. And then he goes,
oh, I did see this.
And his
Who is this? What's his name?
He's banned. He was banned.
I saw like the comment. It was like in a comment section, right? Where he was saying he would like.
No, he made full ass.
He made full ass videos like
How
that?
many followers did this guy have in the first place?
He had like 4,500, and he had 3 videos, and he got banned immediately, basically. But everyone blew up. Like, and I'm not even joking. Literally, I was because Katie, the TikTok advocate, she made a video and she posted it, I believe, this morning. And I finished watching that video and I was like, this is actually one of your videos I wish I wouldn't have watched all the way through, because it was so triggering about child, like CSA. And then he comes on and he's like, I wish y'all would just not be like, ease up, you guys, it's just a joke, it was for clout. Like, motherfucker, what about that is a joke? There's nothing about that. And like, are you really just be playing with your life, your whole ass life, and your family's lives, and like your friends' lives? And like, do you know DaBaby has already caught a case? He's like, you publicly said that you would a child.
And how old is this? Is this person around?
He's a teen. I think he's in high school or college.
he needs to be watched.
Oh,
he is now. I'm sure of
he
it.
is very. I am sure there are people on their way to where he is right now, and I wouldn't be surprised if he.
Because law enforcement's getting warrants for his social media, all of his.
Well, not even
laptop.
not even law enforcement though. Like you start dropping names of rappers like that, and you talking about how you're gonna their children.
Right.
I mean, they're gone. You're gone.
It's really stupid, especially if this is a kid who's like, I want to go viral. I want to become popular. I want to become famous. If you're only doing it as a stupid ass stunt, you just fucked up. But if you are fucked up, you cut.
Well, and Katie,
you outed yourself.
Yeah, when Katie, she said, she's like, I'm seeing a lot of what's the new generation? I'm too old for this.
Gen Z?
No.
Z is the teenage and late.
She said, I'm seeing a lot of the Gen Zs. Y'all are coming out with some crazy clout chasing shit. And you just think that you can say anything. And then you waive First Amendment, thinking that it's acceptable for you to just tell these haha funny jokes because it's going to get you attention. And she's like, you want to be known as the man that came on the internet and gave a how-to for infants. And let me tell you, it was so disgusting that it fucked my whole day up. I've been fucked up all day long.
I sit here and think, because this is where I go as a mom. I'm like, what the hell are his parents doing? Are his
for real?
Do his parents? I can't even say his parents don't even know. But because there are some kids that are very, very quiet, that are bullied, that are messed up, and then they come and they do these things. You know, they're the ones that might retaliate in some way. And the parents claim they really never knew. I'm not gonna. This is hard because like I don't want to blame the parents because I don't know the story, but you should know what the fuck your kids are doing. And what's going on in their life. And I get after a certain age, you don't really have the control. Like if your child is 18, suddenly you are not allowed to advocate for them or anything unless you have a court order and all that. Even in special needs, my son, if I want to advocate for him still, he needs to be under conservatorship. Otherwise, I am not. I can advocate from afar, but still know what the fuck is going on. I think of the parents, and I really do. I'm not saying it's bad parenting, but I have to wonder, are they paying attention?
Oh, I feel for the son of the parents. Like the mom of the rape guy came on there, and you know, I didn't look at her comment section because I didn't want to see anyone attacking her or blaming her because I just had like this bad feeling that would happen too. And I was like, and she was like, I've been telling this kid to go to therapy for forever. Like,
and how old is he? About
20.
like 20. And she's like, I am powerless in this situation, and I don't support anything that he's doing. He's not listening to anything that I have to say. So he's done.
That's gotta be. I mean, if I found out, because I found out some stuff that my son was egged on to do. Luckily, it was all taken care of and stuff when he was in high school. He had some typical friends who took advantage of him being naive and gullible and all that, and made him do something. They didn't make him, but they egged him on to do it. He did, and then immediately stopped. But just enough time for the person to then turn him into the school saying he was doing this. So we met with the school, and I said, you have to tell them what happened, because he's like, they told me. Luckily, the boys did admit, yes, they egged him on and they kind of took advantage of him. So he got in trouble, but he didn't get in the trouble that he could have gotten in. But I took him and I said, okay, now I'm going to show you what happens in the real world if you are ever to get in trouble over the age of 18, especially. And I met with the police department. They gave him a tour of the police department. They gave him a tour of the sex crimes unit and all that. And then he came out of there just like, oh, it was like a scared straight moment.
Well, I have a question though. Based on kind of like what you're saying.
Mhm.
It's because there is a degree of responsibility that parents have, but we also talk about mental health. So when you're dealing, like we are the influence, the environment, all of those things. But when you're dealing with someone who has like ASPD, if your child has ASPD or like BPD, I mean, there's only so much you can do. Is
Yeah.
that right?
Yeah.
They're not going to have it when they're children, but if they're on the way, it's
I mean, but ASPD is
Yeah, ASPD is conduct disorder. Yeah, they will have that as children. I have had people that have said to me, my child killed the cat or killed the dog and is now coming after his siblings and is like ruthless. And I'm just like,
I know, but she said
Oh.
BPD too, so I was just
well,
Yeah,
I'll jump down my fucking throat.
Yeah, no, but was BPD one of the other ones that you can get diagnosed early? Was that
No.
the other one? What's
No.
it's not is it not a cluster B, but isn't there another one you can get diagnosed early?
There's conduct disorder and there's oppositional defiant disorder, which is not personality disorder though. Personality disorders can't be diagnosed until you're 18.
So conduct disorder goes from conduct disorder to antisocial, or is it
yeah, to have antisocial personality disorder, you have to have evidence of or a diagnosis of conduct disorder before the age of 15.
Oh, okay. Got it.
Yeah.
Got it.
We do our intro.
We could do it at the end and even edit it in. It don't matter.
Just gotta remember to do it. But yeah.
I think it's hard for like I think kids who have behavioral issues and I think parents end up like my ex-husband, his daughter had PTSD, ADHD, and she was on the spectrum. So, and she had a lot of behavioral problems. There were times I had to like pick her up from school because she tried to stab some kid in the eye with a colored pencil. And so, but just lots of behavioral issues, and she was on an IEP, things like that. So like parents, I think, who know it's mental health related are already, I want to say, are doing the best they can. There are some shitty parents out there that are just dumb and don't give a fuck.
Yeah.
But to the people that actually care about their kids, which is like hopefully all of our audience, like I think that they do the best they can with the mental health component of things. But once your kid is like a teenager and in that stage of development in their life, and you become less important to them as an influence in their life, and their peers become the maximum influence in their life, it is much, much harder to rein their behavior in with consequences, right? And so, like for me, I was a fucking awful teenager. Like my mother, she would lock our fucking shoes up in the closet so we wouldn't sneak out of the house at night. Like she did everything she fucking could to gain control of us completely out of control kids. Like my brother and I both completely out of control as teenagers. And she did everything she could to the extent that she is permanently on medication for high blood pressure now because of us, right? Like, and just, so sometimes I think it's easy to be like, where the fuck were the parents? But as someone who caused a lot of problems for my parents, I also know their parents, they're like, man, I have been trying to get this bitch to stop and she wouldn't. Like I did everything I could. And at some point, in order for my mom not to become like a codependent enabler of her kids, or someone who's too over controlling to the extent that it's definitely like just pushing the other direction, she just had to let go and just be like, here's my boundary and you can't live here anymore. And so by the time I was 18, I was out.
But remember, mental health, personality disorders, things like that, there's a biopsychosocial component. So especially with personality disorders, right now it's like the chicken or the egg. Is somebody born, they have done the MRIs and there's areas of the brain on every single serial killer, every single MRI that is just not activating. It's just dark. And it's like, did that happen from all the, serial killing, or is that what caused it? They don't know until they start doing, like, if you have a kid that's killing animals and you get them in for an MRI and they get enough, maybe they can kind of figure out what's the chicken or the egg. But there's a biopsychosocial component of most, except for, I think, a lot of sociopath, psychopath, ASPD part. I think that's a lot of faulty wiring in the brain from birth. Like, you can have birth defects. People don't think twice if somebody has a missing limb. Not when I say don't think twice, I mean, oh, it's a birth defect. They have a hole in their heart. Their bowels are on the outside. They have to have a surgery. Oh, they're missing, their fingers are messed up, whatever. But saying that there is like an ASPD sociopath kind of a biological miswiring, like a birth defect, people would be like, huh? So, but you can have birth defects. Your brain just didn't wire the same way.
There's a mom, I gotta find her. There's a mom on TikTok who says that her daughter is a diagnosed psychopath, not diagnosed ASPD, but a psychopath. I was like, don't jump down my fucking throat.
No, but I get it. I was thinking more of the diagnosed sociopath.
Yeah, that's what I heard.
That's what I was thinking.
I was like,
but yeah, so I don't know. I gotta find out who she is and I'll share her with you because I cannot remember. And she doesn't have a big following or anything, only like a few thousand people, but she's sort of sharing her story about like what's going on with this daughter of who supposedly has psychopathy going on, and CPS is involved, and like she's done a lot of horrible things, and it sounds like a really awful, tragic situation. I don't know why people post that kind of stuff on TikTok, but okay, like people do what they want. So but it's interesting. That's why
I think if people like that, and again, you get to the what is humane, what is for science, what is inhumane. But if they can run MRIs and things like that and see, is there something going on? And if there is, let's say that same area that's not lit up in psychopaths and serial killers isn't lit up, isn't activating in her brain. It's like, at that point, though, what do? Do you start experimenting on how to activate it? Because is that cruel and unusual punishment? Is that inhumane? But at the same time, there's no cure for that. So
what's his name? Dr. Amen. He's a psychologist and a neuroscientist, and he actually when he gets his clients, he takes brain scans in order to, and he looks at their brains first before he even really diagnoses them with anything. Like, he'll take his notes, and like, he's extraordinary. Like, I love listening to his talks. He's talked on TED Talks. But I believe it's his nephew. I think he had ASPD or something like that. He really, not ASPD, but the can't remember the name. I've had wine.
Conduct disorder, or what?
Yeah, when they're children.
Conduct disorder.
Yeah, conduct disorder. His nephew, I believe, was doing that, and he was just out of control. And so he brought him in, and then he was suicidal, and so he brought him in. He did a brain scan on him, and he saw that there was a part of his brain that wasn't activating, and he did some research. They changed his diet, and then they did some kind of like therapy or something on him, and they got that part of the brain to start working. And now he's like healthy, and like he's successful, and went and got a job, and he does all of that. So he combines the neuroscience with the psychology, and it's brilliant.
I love that shit. I love that. I love reading brain scan reports. Like, I've only had a couple that I've ever seen with clients that have come to me in treatment, and they came in this like black book of awesomeness, and it had all the diagnosis stuff and the brain scan and like what it all meant. And I was so fascinated by it. Like, if I were to go back to school, it would be to be a neuroscientist, because I think that brain stuff is fascinating.
For sure. We could go together because I'm obsessed with neuroscience.
Yeah.
One of the girls that I worked with, she did, because we used to do biofeedback. We had a biofeedback setup and everything, but she had the one where she put a cap on people. And so it would be doing delta waves and things like that. She'd be measuring their whatever and trying to alter the brain waves. And the difference is with biofeedback is you're watching it happen as it's happening. That's what biofeedback is. It gives you automatic feedback of biologically what's going on. And so it was kind of neat to see how playing like different music all of a sudden changes the brain waves, and how relaxation does that. So it would be interesting to see, it'd be fascinating to see if he could replicate that. But then again, you have to have someone that's willing to put because if it's under the age of 15, you're probably going to have a much better chance. But who's willing to like say, yes, put my child through that? But then again, is the child going to cooperate as well with something like that?
I remember like I'll have to send you a couple of his videos because he also he's the one who helped develop what's called the Daniel diet. It's like this 40-day like fast with specific foods and things that's like geared only for brain health. Like
you don't fast for 40 days, right?
But no. It's basically it's not. It's like a fast from all kinds of bad shit. It's like only brain. Everything in the diet is for brain health. It's all geared toward fixing, healing, and like detoxifying the brain. And he said that psychologists are the only doctors that don't take a picture and actually look at the part that they're trying to fix. And so that's why he combined the neuroscience with the psychology in order to help his patients.
I wish we could.
I want to go see him so bad. Like, I'm like, how much do you charge? How much?
That's why that's not accessible, and that's why we don't do it. Like, because I would be referring to clients for neuropsych stuff all the time if I could, but it is enormously expensive.
Even when you go for neuropsych testing, you don't get that because that is super expensive. And I wish we could, and it's so true, because I used to tell my inmates, because they would be like, you don't know that I'm faking. You don't know. I'm not faking, whenever we would try to discharge them. And it's like, look, we go to school for a lot of years to learn and to diagnose and to observe and to know what we're looking for. So no, I can't look at an x-ray and say that your bone has healed or your bone is broken. However, I can watch and observe and listen. So and it's just like, if you go to a doctor and say, look, this is cancer, I want chemo. And the doctor's like, that's not cancer. You're not getting chemo. And you're like, yes, it is. Telling me that I'm really seriously mentally ill. It's like, I know what to look for, but I wish there were blood tests. I wish there were tests just to see what the neurotransmitter level is in your brain, because that stuff, that would be great if we had better markers. And I think maybe, I don't know how many years from now, not in my lifetime, but they'll have scans that are going to be easier and cheaper to go and get an insurance cover and all of that, to see what the changes are, because you are in therapy with therapy rewiring the brain. So it would be really cool though to see what area it would help treatment so much. And I really do believe, I am not one on when there's doctors, I'm not talking about this guy, but when there's doctors that are like, buy these supplements, buy my supplements, buy my program, buy my whatever. But I do believe that there are things that are just like when you need supplements like vitamin D or whatever for your body. When my son was learning, well, he was 3, I want to say 3 or 4. And they said he had childhood apraxia of speech, which is like an aphasia. But what happens is the brain is fine. The mouth is fine. The connection between the brain and the mouth is not functioning. So he may think he's saying a word, but it's not coming out as that word. Or like they pointed to a color and it was yellow. And then they point to another color. And the last thing he said was yellow. So he would say yellow. Not because it was yellow. If they said point to blue, he would point to blue. But because he just said yellow, it would be yellow. He very rarely talked. They would say, and you couldn't necessarily understand him. It took a long time for me to understand him. And his speech pathologist told me about, she said, there is this study that has been done. It's a very small study. It's only 19 subjects, but it was 19 kids with apraxia of speech. They gave them omega-369. And within 2 weeks, 18 of the 19 started speaking clearer. And so I was like, I don't care if it's a small study. I asked the pediatrician, I said, can this harm him? Can omega-369 harm him in any way? And the pediatrician said, no, not at all. Anything that he doesn't take, he'll pee it out. So I didn't tell anyone that I was doing it. I didn't tell one person. And I went to like, it was either like a Christmas holiday party thing. I went there and his teacher said to me, by the way, I don't know what's happening, but within the last like week or two, he has been talking so much more. And I'm like, okay, that's all I need to know. I don't tell anybody.
Yeah.
So he's been taking it. He takes it to this day and he's 21. So it's like, I do believe that there are things that will strengthen your neurotransmitters that will help your brain health. I don't believe in these quacks. Like when chiropractors say that they can treat everything in the world if you just buy their supplements. I don't go for that. But when there is research backed that this stuff actually, I totally believe it, because why not? If you can have something that helps your heart, why can't you have something that helps your brain?
Well, and when I was pregnant with Naya, I spent the entire pregnancy learning everything I could about what I needed to eat while I was pregnant to like build the healthiest, smartest baby. And then when I had her, like I was figuring out, because I breastfed her, like what do I need to eat to create the most potent breast milk possible so she get sick. And then and then when she started
milk.
But then when she started eating, I was like, what does my daughter need to eat in order for her to be a baby genius? And everything that I read said, do not give your baby sugar unless it's breast milk for the first year. Avoid like fruits and like grains. And the very first food should be a soft-boiled egg yolk, not the white, just the egg yolk. And then grass-fed butter and avocados and coconut oil. It was all fat. It said the brain eats fat. It lives off of fat. Like if you want to build a healthy, and if you build a healthy immune system and building a healthy brain, give that baby breast milk and all fat. I shit you not, like I have it documented and recorded. Her first word was mama when she was 5 months old. And like you guys have heard her speak, like she's just very intelligent and fat. And that's Dr. Amen's diet too, is it's mostly geared around like omega-369 fats and things like that. It's incredible what we could feed our brains. And he also, I would like, you girls would geek out on him, because Dr. has a study on reversing. It's not guaranteed, obviously, but he's had patients with dementia, like onset dementia and Alzheimer's, and he puts them on a specific diet and brain exercises, and he's been able to like bring it back down.
Oh, brain exercises, totally. Doing things like crossword puzzles that make you work both sides of your brain. Stupid Sudoku, which I hate, or Sudoku, or whatever it's called.
I don't know how to say that.
But doing stuff like that, trying to learn a language every once in a while too. If you're right-handed, trying to like write with your left hand doesn't have to be great, but it just makes both sides of the brain work. And you know, I am all for, like when my husband was diagnosed with cancer, I went to the surgeon, and thankfully he had a good surgeon. And I said, I want to do whatever I can on the non-medical side. Like, what should he be eating? And if this stuff isn't known to cure, is it harmful? And if it's not harmful, I want to try it. Like these different vitamins and stuff that are supposed to help your immune system. As long as it's not something that will harm him, I'm all for it. So that's my thing is like, if it's not something that can have an adverse effect because it hasn't been really proven. It's just anecdotal, and then I'm not going to try it. But if it's something that is said, like, there's no harm in feeding your child the absolute best diet you can feed them, unless, of course, you're feeding them something that's neglecting vitamins and minerals that they need to grow. So having a good diet and doing it, I'm all for that. All for stuff like that. It's just that people don't always necessarily believe that things that we eat are going to affect how we think and feel.
Which is insane because the fucking, the mind and body are like the
They're
same
like
entity. Like they're like not separate. It's not a separate thing. It is all interconnected.
Our immune system is communicating all the time. My psychoneuroimmunology, my health psychology is psychoneuroimmunology was my area. And it's like, how can you people not understand this? I don't understand how people realize that. Yes, our brain and our immune system and our body and all of that is it's all one thing. It's not independent of each other. So
no, and if one goes to shit, the other one's going to shit too. So you need to take care of them both.
And I tell my clients, I tell people this all the time. I don't necessarily believe we can cure ourselves of diseases. I don't think we're there yet, but I absolutely 100% believe that we can make ourselves sicker, and even to death. If we believe that we are going to die, if someone tells you have a prognosis of 6 months, you're either going to believe it and die in 6 months, or you're going to say, fuck that shit and do everything that you can to not. And I know people that were like, they were told 3 months and 13 years later, they were still around, you know? And I know people that they were told 2 months and 2 months they were gone. So but I know that the way that we think and feel, and they even say the power of prayer, and people laugh about, we all laid hands and prayed and stuff, but I do believe in the energy. And I believe that I believe in the placebo effect. And I believe if we think something is going to work, we're going to change our brain chemistry and wiring so that it does work. I mean, I don't believe that the placebo
effect didn't work. People wouldn't be saying it fucking worked. Like people wouldn't be thinking that things were working for them.
And they wouldn't have commercials saying it was 2 times better versus placebo. Because that means the placebo works.
Still good, y'all.
I just started rereading a business book called Brainfluence, and it is by, if anyone listening wants to know, it's Brainfluence: 100 Ways to Persuade and Convince by Roger Dooley, and it's actually a business book. It's about marketing. But the scientific research in there, it's funny because big corporations have all the money to do brain scans, because it talks about brain scans in that book and how people respond differently to the placebo effect. It's 100% real.
Yeah. They've done functional MRIs on people who were they thought they were getting opioids, and they did a functional MRI and it showed that the brain worked exactly the same way as it did if it got an opioid. Yep. Now, that doesn't mean that I can cure cancer by just giving people sugar pills and letting them think that they're getting chemo. It doesn't work that way. But if you think your medicine is going to work for you, it has a much higher chance of working for you. It's just like
mind and body connection.
Have you ever seen people drinking non-alcoholic beer without realizing it's non-alcoholic?
No.
They get drunk.
I've never had non-alcoholic beer.
Yeah, if you give someone something that's non-alcoholic and don't tell them it's non-alcoholic, and you tell everybody thinks it's alcohol, you're going to see people getting buzzed. They've done research studies showing people kind of slowly getting buzzed, and it's like, there's no alcohol. I wonder if they get a hangover the next morning.
Wouldn't that be funny? Wouldn't that be funny?
That's just cruel. That's just not even.
I don't know why you have a hangover. You had no alcohol at all.
That's just not even nice.
But you know,
It'll be like as if Heather came and spent the day with me at the wineries.
Right?
fun.
Mean.
But you know what? It's also the same thing where, and this is not going political, people. Please don't think that. When people are given vaccinations, when they're doing testing, clinical trials on medications and vaccinations, there were people that had adverse effects to the vaccine that never got the vaccine. They were given the placebo, and yet they still had shakes and chills and all of the things that people that got the vaccine might have gotten.
Yep.
Well, I mean, there's a lot to be said though about how powerful the brain is. I mean, like my daughter and I have been working on that lately, where I'm trying to help her work through and like be aware of like when to be able to like be mindful of when she feels panic coming up, and to be able to like stop and like assess, observe, like, because she will work herself up into fucking like hyperventilating and like get herself, even toddlers, when they get their sums all worked up and they'll fucking pass out.
Yeah.
Like the brain is amazing. It's like, and even if we're afraid, even everyone's hearing about this new COVID variant, it's amazing what will happen with our brains when we either decide I'm good to go,
Yeah.
I'm good, or I'm gonna get it, and then we start getting sick.
Yeah. Oh, people that are like, oh, I know I had it. I know I had it. I tested negative 5 times, but I know I had it. Why do you know you had it? Well, because my friend had it. I had the same symptoms. Did you have the same symptoms because you think you got it from your friend, but you never, ever, ever, ever tested positive? And I know people can eventually test positive after being negative, but you've never tested positive and you have no antibodies. So you don't even have antibodies. So do you think you really had it? Well, I was really sick. I think it was, what do they call it? Sympathy pains.
Yes, men get that when we're pregnant.
Yep.
That's why they gain weight too. It's
Yeah.
funny how they make fun of us for gaining weight. I saw the coolest scientific study, since we're talking about the brain. I saw the coolest TikTok. It was a man sitting in a room in this lab, and there was a scientist with him, and he was sitting right next to like a partitioner on this side of him.
The mirror box.
They took his arm on his side and they took a fake hand and put it right in front of him. And they literally manipulated his mind with this ruler and like were tickling his hand and like literally trained his brain to think that fake fucking rubber hand was his.
They do that for phantom limb syndrome.
Oh, but my God, like this, watching them train his brain, I was floored.
Mirror neurons.
About how dumb our brain is and how amazing our brain is all at the same time.
How plastic it is. And that's genius, because there was a time when we didn't think our brains after a certain age could change. That we were just like, this is it. You're 30, you're done cooking, everything's fine. This is who you are. There's no changing you. And now it's like, we know that the brain is so plastic and malleable, malleable. Malleable drinking today. So that, like, we know that now, and now we can like carve new neural pathways. Now we could do so much shit to manipulate our brains into doing whatever the fuck we want them to be doing. So do it.
Well,
it's so cool.
It was really crazy because I don't know if you guys saw it, but the hand that was sitting in front of him was clearly fake, but it was wearing his shirt, and they smacked it with the hammer. And this dude came out of his skin thinking that, like, and I just was like, it was shocking and amazing all at the same time. And like, my brain was asking itself, how many times have I been manipulated into thinking something was real when it wasn't? Feeling pain that wasn't really there. And then we could have an entire conversation about how our abusers do that to us. And
Well,
I mean,
what do you
that's a
think?
whole fucking rabbit hole.
But here's the thing, because you said, how many times we gaslight ourselves so much. We're probably worse than our abusers when it comes to gaslighting ourselves. And unfortunately, even when we gaslight ourselves now coming from abuse, it's like double, because now we gaslight ourselves while we're gaslighting ourselves. Like, wait, did I actually do that? No, I didn't. Yes, I did. Wait, he said I didn't. So we're double going in circles. But what was it that you had just said about being malleable? The interesting thing is when people kind of don't believe in psychology or don't believe in therapy or think that anybody can do therapy, the brain is very malleable.
This is not a word we should have when drinking.
And you can say, and I haven't even drank, so I have no excuse, but
mirror neurons.
Knowing
sympathy drunkenness.
But knowing how, this might sound really, I don't even know, but knowing how to, life is manipulation. Everybody manipulates. Kids manipulate, animals manipulate, we manipulate but I call it manipulating for good and not evil. Because when we want to make friends with someone, we're nicer,
I
to
call
kind
it
of influence them.
Influence.
That's what influencing them. But it's a form of manipulation. When we go to a job, we're trying to put on our best. Hey, you need to hire me because I know the job best, or I'll be the best employee. But knowing how to do it for good and not evil, and knowing what you're doing and the limits of doing it. So like when you're working with someone with trauma, you don't go dive in the deep end and let them, learn how to swim. It's like, you got to know where the last little ledge is for them. And then you got to pull back. And then the next time take them a little further sometimes, and then pull back. So you got to know how to manipulate the brain, if you will, which is not an easy thing. And that's why it's not anybody can go and do talk therapy, or anybody can go and do mental health, because it's just harder than it looks.
Well, I think it's a lot like what Heather said. So like abusers manipulate people in the brain in order to get their victim to do what they want. Healthy people utilize influence in order to help influence the person to make the decision that they want for themselves with all of the information that's presented to them. It's like, here's all of the information. I'm going to provide you this influence, maybe a healthy form of manipulation, if that makes sense.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying, but it is manipulation,
so that they can make the decision for themselves, that what's best for them. But I think that's where abusers really thrive, is because they're taking all of these healthy skills and they're like perverting them in order to be able to control a person, rather than giving them the power of autonomy and consent and making these decisions for themselves. That's at least what I've seen lately. So much. It's a whole rabbit dive. I love the brain.
Yeah.
I love the brain.
I love the brain. When I worked at the prison, they called me the brain doctor because I taught the inmates about the brain. And I'm really unhappy because I had all of this, all these resources. And when they moved me and locked up all my personal stuff to try to get back at me, because my former supervisor is a hugely, I don't even like to use this word, malignant, but narcissistic piece of shit. And he cleaned out my desk and put everything in a closet. And I'm like, where's all my work for the past 12 years? There's nothing there. There was nothing there. So he threw out all of my articles and research and curriculum and stuff like that. But I used to teach about like anger and hostility and sleep and just all sorts of stuff with the brain. And it was fascinating. And the inmates loved to learn about it, which is really interesting because no one ever set the bar high enough for them. And they were like, wow, now we're really being challenged, and we want to be challenged, and we want to learn this, and we want to learn that you can actually change the type of person that you are if you don't like it. If you want to behave differently than you actually can. And so it was really fascinating. And I wish I still had the stuff, because it was set in such a way that because inmates could understand it, pretty much anybody can understand it. So it made physiological psychology kind of fun, actually, in hearing about it.
Well, it's really
like the worst.
empowering. It's like you said, it's really empowering when you find out. Because I think that there are a lot, like I was one of these people, and I know for a fact, I don't want to speak for Heather, but I know that she was one of those people too, just when she talked about her childhood and her being an adolescent, is that we don't like being miserable. We don't like being depressed. We don't like feeling hopeless. We don't like feeling like all the lights are off and we're misunderstood. And I don't know why the fuck I am like this. And I hate this about myself. And there's nothing more hopeless than feeling like this is just who I am and I can't fucking change it.
Yeah.
You know, and I don't know why, like, I steal, and I don't know why I lie about everything all the time. And I don't know why I freak out when this happens. And I think for a lot of the inmates, because personality disorders are really quite rare, I think for a lot of people, it offers them hope that, like, I don't have to be like this forever.
Right. And it's really fascinating. And I talk to my clients a lot about how sadly it's easy to be stuck in the negative. Even if we don't like it, we're comfortable in our discomfort, because if I change, and I hear this a lot, what if it doesn't work? What if it doesn't stay? What if I'm happy right now, but then shit happens? So we get really afraid. Also, we feel like, what's the use of being happy? What's the use of being a good person, if you will? What's the use of finding joy in life, when as soon as I find joy in life, then shit happens and I got fired, or I break up with that person or whatever. So we're so kind of, I think society in our society is geared toward being, I think, more miserable than happy, sadly. And there's something, what's even worse, people talk about type A personality and how bad it is for you. Type A isn't bad for you. It's the type A with the hostility that's bad for you, because a hostile personality, it's not a personality disorder, but it's a hostile personality. That is like the worst thing for your body as far as what you can do and change and be on your own, if you will. Because a hostile personality is that personality that the world is against me, everybody hates me, everything fucks up for me, nothing goes my way, life is shit, I don't have any friends, people are assholes, and nobody wants to be around me, and they're constantly miserable. Like, I don't even mean angry, I mean fucking miserable. And they don't have friends, because when you try to be their friend, you can't, because within 5 minutes, they're like, the world fucking hates me.
I feel like you just described Gen Z.
Gen Z. But they suck the energy out of the room. They suck the air out of the room. And then it's like, see, my life is fucked up. And it's like, oh my God, do you not see that you are doing it to yourself? And it actually should be a personality disorder, because it's a personality.
I think it's a stage of development.
I agree, because I think that defines precisely ages 13 to roughly 27.
It's definitely a developmental stage. I lived that. I'm Gen X, and I lived that in adolescence for sure.
That was my entire. I feel like that was most of my existence.
But the good thing is, if you grow out of it and you see and you make friends and see that maybe it's you, maybe you are the problem, take a good look. If the common denominator in every fucking thing is you, guess what? You are probably highly likely to be the problem. But because that's the worst for your body, going back to the brain and the body and the immune system, all that. A hostile personality, you are constantly pumping out glucocorticoids, which after a while they're called hostile hormones, because they're not bad in short term. It's our fight or flight hormones. But in the long term, it's going to start affecting your immune system, because there's T cells and white cells, and your white cells in your immune system are being attacked, and you can't keep up with all of the hostile hormones that are being pumped out all the time. So you do start getting sick. Your immune system does start breaking down. And it's because a large part is because you're a fucking hostile human being. Like, take a breath, learn some mindfulness, learn some gratitude, whatever, go to therapy, take some responsibility, and you might start feeling better as well. Because usually hostile people also have a lot of problems physically.
It's my favorite clap back right now is go to therapy.
You know,
my favorite clap back, just go to therapy.
Go to therapy. They should, because it's not a sign of weakness to go to therapy either. It's a sign of strength.
If I have some incredibly courageous men in therapy right now.
I think it makes a big difference. And I like the people who say it's also not time limited. I know that there is brief therapy that works on just the issue that you're there. You work for about 6 weeks or whatever, and you're done. But, and this is not psychoanalysis. With psychoanalysis, you are in it every single day for like the rest of your life, because they start at the year 0 and work the way up. Like, I had a professor who, she said she was a psychoanalyst, and she sees her people Monday through Friday every week. And then
How expensive is that?
That's funny, because the next sentence out of her mouth was, "It's not about the money." And we're in class kind of going,
that is the rich people's therapy.
Mentioned anything about money, but we all know that it is. Yeah, they go, and they're just constantly learning from day one, kind of how the first 5 years of their lives fucked them up.
I don't, but there are key moments that are buried in my childhood that I don't need to know how it fucked me up.
Right. Sometimes I'm with you. It's like, I know it fucked me up.
Don't need to know. I don't
need to go talk about it with anybody.
It's like the dog that buries all the bones.
Right.
I don't need to know that they're there. Thank you.
You don't need to know there's bodies buried.
We don't need to dig them. Why would we dig them up when I don't know they're there? I feel like, let's just work with what we've got.
You don't have to dig them up. This is just rich people therapy. This is
like, I don't feel like re-traumatizing myself. Thank you. Like,
yeah. It's like your past. Yes, your past is extremely important in who you are today. Today is going to be important in who you are tomorrow, right? But we get to decide every day what part of us we want to continue to bring into tomorrow and what part we want to leave behind. So in a lot of things, yeah, it's important to know why you are the way you are, going back to your childhood. But I don't mean we have to dissect your childhood. Like, if you say, oh my God, I know when I was little, if I ever touched the stove, my mom would freak the fuck out. And so I grew up like, I can't touch the stove. Okay, that's important to go back to your childhood to see that that's why you don't want to touch the stove. But we don't need to then go into, well, what kind of a parent was your mom every other time? What else did your mom do to you? Did she lock you in the bathroom and maybe you're repressing it? You know, it's like, we don't need to know that.
Fucking psychoanalysis, man.
You're stuck in the oral phase. That's why you're
stuck in the oral phase. Is that why I'm vaping right now?
That is exactly why.
Orally fucking fixated.
And once we get you
Me
out
too,
of
Heather.
I have fucking daddy issues too.
And I cannot remember if anybody is psychoanalytic listening to this. I can't remember what year that the oral stage is, but that's where we have to take you back and get you unstuck. So if it's at the age of 4, we got to go back to that age and get you unstuck. And then the rest of your life is going to be fucking great.
Freud was a genius in his time. But like, But
Freud was
go
a
back
coke
there and see
addicted.
what else he did back then, because he was not a good person.
Okay, I'm just
addicted.
all I'm saying is that in order for
Yeah.
Freud to have been where he was,
Mhm.
I just want to know what Freud was suppressing in order for him to
Yes.
Oh yeah, everyone knows he was in love
Yeah.
with his mother.
He was in love with his
absolutely in love
mother.
with
He
his
was a
mother.
coke addict who was obsessed with sex.
Yeah, and his own mother. He was in love with his own mom.
Yeah.
I feel like most of Freud's discoveries was a massive projection.
Absolutely. But it taught us so much about what the fuck projection is. And we learned a whole fucking lot from him. Like, we did really learn, like, oh, sex and aggression is probably a thing we should be talking about. But, like, it wasn't the end all be all of our psyche.
So if I
Okay,
just,
I get a Freudian slip. I Freudian slip now and then, you know.
I
Yes.
got, do you guys remember the text that I got the Freudian slip in? It was like, I pray.
Oh yeah.
I'm
Oh yeah,
praying for you.
PREY.
And it was PREY. And I was like, is that a Freudian slip? It is a Freudian.
That's Freudian slip.
I feel like if I want to become world famous, I just need to become a psychologist and then project all of my trauma onto the rest of the world.
No, you don't even need to become a psychologist. Just say you're a mental health expert and this is your theory, and then spread that theory, which is you're projecting whatever shit that you have is everybody else.
That's how the field was made.
You know? And it's so I know people who still are psychoanalytic. I don't understand it. I went to school with a girl that lives in Brazil, and she said that's what it's a lot of psychoanalysis in Brazil. But she said in her office, they have nothing. Like, we didn't nest in prison because you don't want inmates to see, you know, family pictures and stuff, but we would still put personal things out. Like I had, you know, like my Dallas Cowboy stuff, because it's innocuous. It's nothing's gonna gain from that. But they have nothing at all in their office. And she said there's a couch, the client lays on the couch, and she was dead serious. This was not a joke. The client lays on the couch, and we have our backs to them. We don't even talk. And I'm like, what that does not sound like that sounds kind of scary to me. I don't like that, where I'm just talking to a room and someone with the back.
Association, just
yeah. And she doesn't talk. She doesn't, God forbid, self-disclose anything, even her name. Like, it's her last name only, you know. She won't even, if they can't even know the first name.
But so I go into a room, I sit or lay on a couch, and I just start talking to myself, and you take notes.
Yep. That's what it sounds like.
But I'm just curious, like, why wouldn't you just give me a room where I'm not feeling judged by a strange person with their back?
then you're
facing
not going to do psychoanalysis.
And then
Sorry.
just record
That's
it.
not psychoanalysis.
And then just record it, since I have my back. You'd have your back to me.
How do you know you're being judged if you can't see my face? I may not even be awake. Maybe I'm asleep.
No, psychoanalysis is blank slate. You don't get nothing. You don't get judged. You don't get validated. You don't get shit. You get nothing. Blank slate. No one gets to see you. You talk. They write. And eventually you'll learn about yourself.
I don't even myself. I don't understand. I don't understand how it helps.
I think
It's just
even
me.
just, and this is like just an example of the brain. I think even just be someone being like, I'm going to go see my psychoanalyst, I would already be like, fuck no, not going. Because if I say my psychoanalyst, then already I'm claiming psychopathy. I'm sorry, I can't see you. I'd rather go see my psychologist, because then at least, you know, I'm not fucking psycho.
Like, honestly, you know who Woody, I mean, I hope you know who Woody Allen is. Okay. Woody Allen has been in psychoanalysis forever. He had always, I haven't heard about him or anything. I don't even know if, honestly, I hate to say this, if he's still alive. I think he is. But he used to talk about being in therapy, being in psychoanalytic therapy for 20 years when he was talking about it. And at that point, he had already been in like 20 years. And then 10 years later, he's still talking about it. And then maybe 10 years after that, I don't even know. But he was always talking about how long he's been in therapy. That was a fucking mess. I mean, he married his stepdaughter, for fuck's sake. Yeah, his adopted stepdaughter.
So
Yeah.
his psychoanalyst.
Soon Yi or something like that.
So his
I don't know what
psychoanalyst-
psychoanalysts do other than be weird to me.
Do they just take notes? They're gonna be pissed when they hear me
Well,
say
let's
that, but I'm
interpret your
not.
dream.
right?
Wait, no, this is another thing that they do. You got a big mic right there.
Just kidding.
Obviously, Ashley, there's something lacking in your life, or that you want, or that
This everything is a fucking phallic symbol. Everything
you just got
is fucking worse than psychoanalysts.
Those psychoanalysts don't really do anything except tell you why you're they just observe. I mean, what do they do? Do they solve problems? Are they going to come after me? I'm not licensed,
No.
so
They don't. They just figure out what's wrong with you. They don't solve
But-
any problems. And they
I
don't
mean,
help you solve your life. They just tell you that everything is a symbol of everything else, and
You're
everything
fucked
is phallic. Sometimes a fucking cigar is just a cigar.
just a cigar. A cat is just a cat. Wallet is
Cat.
just a wallet. Yeah.
I would
Yeah,
love
but-
for them to identify this mic.
I was just gonna say, what are you doing, Heather or Ashley?
Because I didn't even pick out this microphone. It was a Christmas present. So rock top for you.
Good thing you're not stuck. It's a good thing you're stuck in that oral stage, not the anal stage, is all I can say. With that microphone.
Fucking said it.
One gem of mine that's inappropriate. Don't
I
we?
wonder what a psychoanalyst would say about where you just took it, Jody.
Oh my god, a psychoanalyst would just think we were the most twisted, fucked up people.
There's got to be at least one inappropriate comment a podcast, or it's not a podcast.
Well, okay. Speaking of, I feel like we should probably let our followers who are notified of last week's podcast and why they can't find last week's podcast know why they can't find last week's podcast.
I don't wanna.
I mean, we gotta. I feel like now that we're all tipsy minus Jody, but listen, the placebo effect, sympathy, drunkenness, she's probably feeling pretty good right now. So we posted a podcast last week, and then
We
yeah,
attempted to a couple times.
a couple of times, and then we had to take it down. It was a really great podcast.
It
It
was.
a fucking awesome podcast.
It was an amazing podcast.
But our guest has snooty PR people who didn't want.
not appreciate it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we had to take it down. So we had to take it down. Some fucking people told us what to do, and we listened, and we don't want to talk about it. That's it. Like, that's it. We're not going to talk about how we surrendered, because fuck that.
But let's just say a couple weeks ago with Lizzo, we talked about branding and our brand. And if you've watched any of our podcasts by now, you kind of know what we do. This is what we do. I'm going to say an inappropriate comment. Or
We're all gonna laugh about it.
We're going to cuss. We're going to drink. That is what we do. That is who we are. And we're not going to change that. We've gotten more than enough thank you comments of people who appreciate what we do and how we do it. And we're going to keep doing it.
But the guest that we had has their own
amazing.
brand, and the people that are in charge of him maintaining that brand did not think it mixed well with ours, apparently. and so asked that we re-record it with him, which we may do down the road.
Although I'm gonna just say that it was one of the best
It
podcasts
was so great.
ever fucking recorded. And when we have guests on, it is all about authenticity. It's about we want to experience you and have a real, hilarious, unfiltered conversation with you. And I don't feel like anything that was said in that podcast was inappropriate, that it was disgraceful, or that he should be ashamed of anything he said.
At all.
It was
No.
fucking hilarious and fun and entertaining, and also very insightful. And so it's really unfortunate that they're, and as a brand specialist, I do to a certain degree understand. However, our conversation with him wasn't much different than his TikTok video. So I was slightly aloof. But so if you guys saw the notifications that we posted 2 videos and then you couldn't find them, it was because we were asked to pull the video down, not because of him, because he quite liked the podcast, but because of his PR team.
And so we're not bitches and assholes. And we respected it.
Well, we
like
respected our guests.
him.
As survivors, we were very pissed off that we had to pull it down because we don't like people silencing our voices.
Right.
Yeah.
But we wanted to maintain the relationship that we have with our guest, and we wanted.
He's amazing. He's great, and he said he loved it, and it was relaxed, and it was. He very, very, very rarely, if ever, does podcasts. He turns them down. But he had a great time on our podcast. He fully enjoyed doing it. He said, usually podcasts are interrogations. Mm-hmm. He said, this one was so relaxing and comfortable, and he really enjoyed himself.
That was the point. That's what we do. We just have a good time. That's all we're doing. We're just making sense of nonsense, having a good time, drinking.
But just like we said in this episode, they like to manipulate the brain. And so we had to pull it down.
And perception and reality aren't necessarily the same thing. Mm-hmm. Because what someone's perception of one thing is, another person's perception might not be the same. And you're going to perceive something based on your morals, values, history, brand, and whatever. So you're going to see what you're going to see, sadly. But out of respect for our guest, who we really, truly enjoy and like, we took it down because of him. That was why.
And on that note, shall we stop explaining ourselves? Call it a day.
Should we end on this note? So we're in a pregnant pause. So we shall end.
How are you the fucking sober one right now?
I don't fucking get it. I'm telling you, it's the placebo effect.
It is. She's like, so we shall end.
So we shall end now.
It shall end.
Okay, I had micro radio wave pulse.
That is no, shut up. That is not an excuse.
No, and I'm saying maybe it's the high from the friends from that now. That's
we just had a whole fucking conversation on the brain, Jody, and now you're trying to gaslight our audience into thinking it's your microneedling. Shut the fuck up.
No, gaslight you two. It's the endorphins from it.
The audacity! You must be drunk to think you could gaslight Heather and I.
Wrong one. Wrong one.
If I really wanted to.
Okay.
Okay.
Cheers.
So,
Love you,
on that note,